Once upon a time, I lived in a house that was no longer my own. My son Joseph, his wife Sarah, and my grandson Ryan filled the space with life, but I was merely a shadow, fading into the walls. Retirement had stolen my purpose, and time had stolen my strength. My hands trembled, my thoughts slipped away mid-sentence, and Sarah never let me forget that I was nothing more than a burden. She scolded me over misplaced items, cold meals, or even the way I walked too slowly through the house. Yet I endured. Ryan's innocent smile kept my heart from collapsing under the weight of loneliness. One cold afternoon, Sarah thrust a few crumpled bills into my hand and instructed me to buy vegetables for dinner. I stepped outside, the wind biting into my frail skin, my knees protesting with every slow step. The world moved faster than I did now, cars rushing by, people brushing past without a glance. As I neared the market, my attention was caught by a small figure outside the pharmacy, a little girl, her face streaked with dirt and tears. "Please, sir," she begged the shopkeeper, her voice cracking with desperation. "My mother is sick. We don't have any money, but she needs medicine." The shopkeeper shook his head coldly, turning his back. Something inside me cracked. Without thinking, I reached into my pocket and handed her the money. "Take care of her," I whispered. As I walked back home, dread pooled in my stomach. Sarah would be furious. The door creaked open, and before I could even step inside, her voice cut through the air like a blade. "Where are the vegetables?" I hesitated, searching for words, but Joseph's voice followed, softer but just as sharp. "Dad, what happened?" Before I could explain, Sarah spat out the truth for me. "He gave the money away, just like that." Joseph's disappointment hurt more than Sarah's anger. "We're struggling too, Dad," he sighed. "You can't save everyone." My heart clenched, but before I could reply, Ryan's small voice broke the silence. "But Dad, my teacher says helping people is the right thing. Grandpa did the right thing, didn't he?" Days passed, and the weight of being unwanted grew heavier. I tried to stay invisible, but even that wasn't enough. Then, one morning, as I walked to the market again, dizziness struck me like a wave. My legs buckled, and the ground rushed up to meet me. I lay there, shivering on the cold pavement, while strangers gathered but did nothing. A kind soul finally picked up my phone and called home. When they told Sarah, she didn't come. She didn't even tell Joseph. Eventually, I forced myself up, leaning on walls and lampposts, dragging my weakened body home. When I stepped inside, Sarah barely acknowledged me. But Ryan, oh my sweet boy, he ran to me, wrapping his tiny arms around me. His warmth was the only thing that reminded me I was still alive. One evening, I overheard shouting, Sarah's voice sharp with anger, Joseph's confused but firm, then Ryan's trembling words, "Mom, there's a boy in my class. He's poor. The school was going to kick him out, so I gave him my school fee money to help." My heart swelled with pride, but Sarah's rage burned hotter. "You're just like your grandfather," she screamed, raising her hand. Before she could strike, Joseph stepped in, gripping her wrist. "Enough," he said firmly. "Ryan did the right thing. I'll pay his fees again." For the first time, I saw Joseph defend Ryan, and in a way, me. The next morning, Sarah handed me money for the electricity bill. "Don't mess this up," she hissed. I left, clutching the bills tightly. At the billing office, I stood in line, my mind wandering. Then, someone bumped into me. It wasn't until I reached the counter that I realized my pocket was empty. The money was gone. Panic clutched my chest. I searched the streets, retraced my steps, but there was no solution. I was too afraid to go home. Sarah wouldn't believe me. I sat on a bench, the world moving around me, but I felt small, like a child who had done something terribly wrong. That night, after everyone had gone to sleep, I sat in my room, clutching an old photograph of my late wife. My hands shook as I whispered, "I can't do this anymore. I'm tired, so tired." My heart felt as fragile as the paper in my hands. The next morning, with what little strength I had left, I carried that photo to Joseph and Sarah. My voice broke as I said, "Please, take me to the old age home. I don't want to be a burden anymore." Sarah smirked, not even hesitating. "Good," she said. "You should have gone there a long time ago." As we arrived at the old age home, I tried to be strong, but inside I was breaking. Joseph filled out paperwork while I sat quietly, my wife's picture clutched tightly in my hands. Then, a strange thing happened. A man, the manager of the home, walked up to me, smiling warmly. "It's been a long time," he said, his voice kind. Joseph looked confused. "Dad, how do you know him?" I stayed silent. I wasn't sure if Joseph even cared about my past, but soon the truth would come out. Joseph's curiosity grew as he turned to the staff nearby. "Does my father know the manager?" he asked. The staff member smiled and nodded. "Sir, your father isn't just some helpless old man. Years ago, he helped many children here. In fact, he adopted a boy from this very orphanage." Joseph's face paled. His breath hitched as his eyes darted between me and the manager. "Adopted? Who?" His voice was barely above a whisper. The staff member's response shattered the air like thunder. "You, sir?" Joseph staggered back as if struck. His eyes widened in shock, disbelief pooling within them. Silence filled the room as the weight of the revelation crashed over him. Joseph turned to me, his face pale and his hands trembling. "Dad, why didn't you ever tell me?" His voice was laced with regret, guilt dripping from every word. But I only smiled, weary and quiet. "Because you were my son," I whispered. "That was all that ever mattered." He fell to his knees before me, his breath coming in shallow gasps. I could see the torment in his eyes, the realization that he had abandoned the man who had once saved him. Back home, Sarah paced restlessly, waiting for Joseph's return. The front door creaked open, and she turned sharply, her eyes scanning his face. "What took you so long?" she asked, her voice laced with irritation. "Did you leave him there, or did you bury him?" Her cruel words snapped something inside Joseph. Without warning, his palm struck her cheek, the sharp sound echoing through the house. Sarah stumbled back, her hand flying to her face in shock. "Do you even realize what you've done?" Joseph's voice roared, filled with fury and pain. His eyes glistened with unshed tears. Sarah's lips trembled, fear flickering in her expression. "What do you mean?" she whispered. Joseph's voice was unsteady, but his conviction was firm. "That man you treated like dirt, the man you called a burden, he gave me everything. He gave me life when I had nothing." He sucked in a breath, his emotions unraveling. "He adopted me, Sarah. I wasn't even his blood, but he raised me as his own." Sarah's body trembled as his words sank in. Tears welled in her eyes, her breaths coming in short gasps. I didn't know," she stammered, voice cracking. Joseph inhaled deeply, his hands clenching into fists before he exhaled, releasing some of his rage. "We're going back," he declared. "We're bringing him home. I won't let him live alone." Without waiting for a response, he turned and grabbed Ryan's hand. Sarah hesitated, her body frozen in place. Then slowly she followed. They arrived at the old age home, the cold air biting at their skin. When I saw them standing at the entrance, my heart stopped. Joseph stepped forward, his eyes red-rimmed, filled with sorrow. Then in front of everyone, he fell to his knees. "Father, please forgive me." Tears streamed down his face as he grasped my frail hands. "Come home with us," he pleaded, his voice breaking. "I was wrong. So wrong." My gaze drifted to Ryan, his small hands balled into fists, his lip trembling. Behind them, Sarah stood silently, her head bowed, shame heavy on her shoulders. For a moment, I couldn't speak. I had long accepted my fate, to be left behind, forgotten. But as I looked into Joseph's eyes, I saw something I never expected. Regret. Love. A desperate need to undo the past. With a trembling breath, I whispered, "Let's go home." As we walked through the doors, Ryan clung to me as if afraid to let me go again. Joseph kept apologizing, his words tumbling out between sobs. "Father, you taught me kindness, but I forgot." Ryan remembered it better than I did. I smiled weakly, squeezing his hand. "Family is forgiveness," I whispered, and for the first time in years, I believed it. As we stepped inside the house, the warmth of home wrapped around me like an embrace. Ryan guided me to my chair, his small hands gentle but firm. "I won't leave your side, Grandpa," he promised. Sarah appeared beside me, a cup of tea in her shaking hands. "I'm sorry," she whispered, placing it before me. Her voice cracked with guilt. "I was blind to your love, to your sacrifices. I treated you horribly when all you wanted was family." I studied her for a moment, then spoke softly. "Sometimes it takes losing something to realize its worth." Tears slid down her cheeks as she dropped to her knees beside me. "I'll never hurt you again," she vowed. "You have my word." And for the first time, I saw sincerity in her eyes, a promise unspoken. From that day forward, everything changed. Joseph became more attentive, ensuring I never felt like a burden again. Sarah, though haunted by her past cruelty, treated me with kindness. She prepared my favorite meals, sat with me in the evenings, and slowly we found peace. But the one who never left my side was Ryan. He sat with me, listened to my stories, held my hand as if I might disappear. "Grandpa," he often whispered, "I'll always take care of you." And in those innocent words, I found the hope I had once lost. I was loved. I was home. Some nights, as I sat by the window, watching the stars, my thoughts drifted back to that little girl outside the pharmacy, the one I had given my money to. Maybe in a way she reminded me of myself, left alone in a world that could be so cruel. But now, I understood. Kindness always finds its way back. Sometimes it returns when we need it most. Looking at my family, I realized love has the power to heal even the deepest wounds. And if you are listening to this story, remember, never turn your back on those who love you.